Rachel Reeves is now in the most precarious moment of her chancellorship. The past week has exposed not only a policy miscalculation, but a deeper structural incoherence at the heart of the government's economic strategy. Her U-turn on income tax, the freezing of thresholds, the proposal for a new mansion tax surcharge, and the possibility of a levy now payable on death have collided to create what market analysts are calling a tax death spiral. This is not rhetoric. It's a factual description of how the government has lost control of its message, unsettled investors, and provoked intense alarm among middle-class homeowners, the very voters Labour promised to reassure. Reeves's abandonment of her long-trailed 2p income tax rise marks a dramatic reversal, even before she has opened her mouth and stood at the dispatch box. She had personally prepared Labour MPs for the political pain of breaking a manifesto pledge. She briefed journalists. She even signalled to bond markets that she was ready to take a politically costly step to maintain fiscal discipline. Then in a single morning she reversed course. Instead of raising the rate, she will freeze the level at which workers begin to pay income tax for 2 years. This will raise $7.5 billion through fiscal drag as inflation and wage growth push millions into higher liabilities. Yet only last year, Reeves condemned threshold freezes as a hidden tax on workers. She told the Commons that such freezes hurt working people and take money out of their pay slips. Her new policy is precisely the measure she rejected as unfair. She's bordering on madness. Investors reacted with immediate scepticism. Bond yields spiked, the pound fell. Analysts noted that Reeves had created uncertainty on both sides of the equation. She abandoned a major tax rise, yet signalled a need for smaller measures that bond markets doubt will plug a hole of 20 to 30 billion pounds. The OBR, supposedly more optimistic forecast, has not reassured anyone. As Marcus Ashworth wrote, the markets see straight through the claim that a rosier forecast reduces the need for major tax steps. If anything, the late change exposed a government unsure of its footing. The backdrop is politically poisonous. Starmer's team spent the week fighting leadership speculation. Wes Streeting was forced to deny that he was preparing to challenge Starmer for the leadership. Senior Labour MPs privately described the situation as chaos on an industrial scale. One warned that Reeves herself will end up having to go after this debacle. This is not a debate about policy detail. It's a crisis of authority. The threshold freeze is only one part of Reeves's revenue plan. Alongside it sits a proposal that has shocked Middle England, a property surcharge on homes in bands F, G and H. This affects 2.4 million properties, roughly 1 in 10 English homes, and includes 1.3 million middle-class families whose only crime is living in the wrong postcode. This is not a tax on oligarchs' penthouses, it's a tax on ordinary families in London, Surrey, Hertfordshire, Kent, Sussex, Essex, Berkshire and Hampshire. In some areas, up to a quarter of all homes will be revalued. This will raise £600 million initially, then more as values are reassessed. Annual bills of hundreds and even thousands of pounds will follow, and Reeves intends to allow families to defer the charge until they move house or until they die. This creates precisely the effect that critics describe: a supplementary tax bill at death imposed on grieving families already facing inheritance tax at 40%. A deferred levy with interest is materially an inheritance surcharge. The political attack lines write themselves. Kemi Badenoch calls the proposal a mansion tax payable on death, punishing pensioners who did the right thing. Richard Tice accuses Reeves of lying about tax rises and preparing to hammer families when they're grieving. Mel Stride calls the plan a class war against Middle England. These messages are potent because they are simple and because Reeves has made them credible. Labour is already being cast as the party that taxes work, savings, property, education, now death. To rehabilitate the economy, Reeves needed clarity and discipline. Instead, she's given her opponents the cleanest attack line imaginable. Look at the Chancellor's position objectively. She cannot raise income tax rates. She cannot raise VAT or national insurance without betraying manifesto pledges. She cannot significantly increase borrowing without further rattling the bond markets. She cannot impose large, visible tax rises without political revolt in her own party. She cannot rely on growth projections that investors doubt. The result is a desperate hunt for fragmented, improvised measures, threshold freezes, property surcharges, savings account freezes, pension scheme reforms, EV taxes, landlord levies, gambling taxes. None deliver the clarity required, all deepen the perception of confusion. This is not strategy, it's triage. The most damaging consequence is not financial but psychological. Britain is watching a government lose confidence in itself. The chronology tells a story of systemic drift. Reeves hints at income tax rises at the IMF. Starmer refuses to rule them out at PMQs. Cabinet ministers distance themselves. Investors wait for clarity. Labour backbenchers panic. The plan is abandoned. A new tax on homes is floated. Markets wobble again. Will the plan be abandoned again? When Sir Jeremy Hunt warns that Britain looks like an economic laughingstock, he's not describing a partisan fantasy, he's describing a real perception among international observers. What we see now is the early stage of a tax regime designed by stealth, denial, deferral and improvisation. Instead of a coherent growth plan, the government is deploying a scattergun of small levies. Instead of clarity, it is offering confusion. Instead of stability, it is delivering turbulence. The mansion tax surcharge, the threshold freeze, the EV levy, the pension reform, the possible landlord tax and the so-called death tax all point in the same direction to the same conclusion. The government is trying to raise large sums of money without admitting what it's doing. Yet in politics there is nothing more dangerous than creating a policy that is technically defensible but politically toxic. Rachel Reeves set out to reassure markets and voters. She's achieved the opposite. Unless the government finds its footing swiftly, this episode will not be remembered as a mere pre-budget wobble. It will be remembered as the moment the economic narrative began to slip decisively out of Labour's control and Labour lost its footing.